There are commercial tools to do all this subdomain brute forcing if you're not talented enough to write a couple of lines of Python. Acunetics, I'll talk about web application tools. There's a ton of tools that do this now. Acunetics, WebInspect, they both have subdomain brute forcing tools built into their security testing suites. Some open source stuff that's pretty cool is DNS map. It's good stuff. Knock, both of those do subdomain brute forcing. Or like I said, you just write your own little Python script to do it. So here's a little screenshot of my Python script. And we'll notice up there that I'm brute forcing xhamster.com. I set up 20 threads because I like to do it fast. Anyhow, my word list consisted of 1,906 different possible subdomains. And then it ran through, and out of those 1,906 possible subdomains, I found 11 different domains. So I found ads.xhamster.com, download.xhamster.com, which we found on Google, mobile.xhamster, their name servers, partners.xhamster.com, secure, st, static, upload, and www.xhamster.com. So, but what the interesting thing to notice here is the IP addresses that associate with these domain names. So I have this 88.208.23, and then I have this 88.208.16. So we'll notice that, you know, some of their web servers are sitting in different net blocks and different IP spaces, right? So it's kind of spread out. So we've enumerated different net blocks that contain our target's servers. So that's how we're going to go after that. All right, so the next part is to enumerate those net blocks and find out what they own and where it's owned at. So there's a lot of ways to do this. My favorite, good old whois, right? We have some whois command line ninjas. We're like whois, IP address, bam, comes back and tells us who owns that net block. If you like the web application way, excuse me, you can go to Ripe or Aaron or any of those top-level DNS things. bgp.he.net, that's this Hurricane Electric. You guys who are all into the IPv6 implementation, this website has a ton of like who's implementing what and where, but it also has really, really good whois lookup information. So basically, we can go here to this website, and then I typed in the IP address of xhamster.com, the host, and then it came back and it said, it gave me the AS number for the owning Advanced Hosters, which Advanced Hosters is the company that hosts all of xhamster's websites and all their affiliates and all their sub-companies. And so once I entered their AS number, bam, I got all their net blocks. So now I know every single net block that xhamster owns. There's that 16 range and 48, and we had a 32. We got some IPs over here. The screenshot cuts it off, but it even tells us what country they're located in and all this additional extra information that's really cool. So we're like, cool. So now I know all the IP addresses that xhamster owns. Now, next part in the methodology is I got to find all the web servers that sit in those IP addresses. So, again, a lot of ways to do this. Nmap works just fine for me, people. I wouldn't recommend using anything else but Nmap. You could write your own. In fact, I did when we get to this end of this presentation, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I did write my own, and it turned out mine sucked. And so I just ended up writing a library in Python that controlled Nmap. And so my Python library just now controls Nmap and executes Nmap on the lower level because it's way faster than my shit. I mean, that guy's been writing that shit. Freuder's been writing that for, what, 15 years? So it's way better than mine. Again, if you're one of those commercial people and you like to spend, you know, $15,000, $25,000 on a tool, then you got your, well, Acunetics about 6. WebInspect's 25. Acunetics has a built-in web server finder, so does WebInspect. And then, like I said, if you want to reinvent the wheel, which I don't recommend, you can write your own. All right, so here's a little useful one-liner. No Windows stuff here. I don't use Windows. I don't even know how to work it. So hopefully you know your Linux syntax. But anyhow, here's a little useful nmap command for enumerating all those websites. So basically, I'll go over it real quick. So nmap, and then we throw in there, hey, nmap, only show me open ports. Don't show me anything else. Show me ports 80 and 443. Again, we can and enlarge this very easily, adding other places where web servers might typically sit, you know, like 8080 or any of those other crazy ports that we find, 81. Then we got the PN, and the PN says, I don't care if it's alive or responds to ICMP, just scan it anyways, the little -n. Don't do a reverse DNS lookup on it. I don't give a crap what its reverse DNS is. And then we put in one of those IP blocks. And then after that, we pipe that to grep, and we look for that string nmap scan, and then I awk that out, and so I get a nice little file that's basically this xham_ip.txt, and it contains all the IP addresses where it found open web servers that were running on either port 80 or port 443. So now I have this nice list of IP addresses that have web servers. So I'm like, wow, we're getting there. I'm about halfway through our process. Next. So now we have our target. We know what our net blocks are. And we enumerated all the web servers, so we know where the web servers are at. The next thing we got to do is find all the virtually hosted domains on all of those IP addresses. Not technically hard stuff to do. Currently, I don't know of any commercial application that does this or is doing it well. There is some Perl scripts out there and some Python scripts that got released by some guys, but I looked at their methodology and the way they're doing it, and it sucks. I think mine's the best. Sorry. Anyhow, there are a bunch of websites that actually do this that you can go to. YouGetSignal.com/tools/websites on web server. There used to be IP2neighbor.com, but it got DOSed, and then the guy got pissed off and took it offline. There's this IP2web.webmax.ca. You can go there and you can just type in the IP address, and then it'll tell you all the other virtually hosted domains that sit on that IP address. Or we can use my favorite, the only thing Microsoft has ever done right in their life, Bing.com. Now, I don't know if you guys knew this. This is a little bit of a new piece of information, is that we all know Bing doesn't have any dorks, right? Well, that's not right. They have one dork, and one dork only. And it's IP:, something Google doesn't have. Fail on Google. So basically, if you go to Bing.com, and in the search bar, you type IP:, and you put in an IP address, you press enter, Bing is going to come back and say, hey, here's all the websites that I've found hosted on that IP address. So Bing's got a pretty big database of what's out there on the internet, you know. So it's pretty reliable and actually very good. So this being said, Bing's the way to go, right? Because, like I said, I'm lazy. I like to write code. I'm not going to sit there at Bing and for all whatever 418 IP addresses that I had active web servers on, am I going to go IP:, enter. Then look at the screen. Nah, man, I got to be able to automate all this. So Bing helps us out because Microsoft's nice and said, hey, we'll give you an API that you can interact with. And I was like, cool. And then Bing was even cooler when it said, just go to /developers and sign up for your free API key. And I was like, woohoo! So I wrote some Python to do this. And hopefully you guys can see this. But there's a paste bin right there. I'll give you guys the code for free if you want to check it out. That does this. And basically the script's called ip2vhost.py. It's a Python script. Doesn't require any additional libraries. The only thing about the Python script you need to know is you do need to go to bing.com/developers and sign up and get your own API key, and then put that API key inside the script so it can interact with the API. So, bam. Here's the important thing we need to know. This is basically my script in a nutshell. All it's really doing is hitting this API.bing.net, XML.ASPX. We enter in there our Bing API key so it authenticates us with it. Then we set up our query, and we put that IP:, and then the host IP address that we're going to use. Now, we're only interested in web sources. The maximum count we can get back of results is 50. And here's a very important little thing right here, and it took me a while to figure that out because Bing's documentation sucks balls. But there's that and adult equals off. If you don't put and adult equals off, basically Bing will adult filter all your web results. And so you won't get accurate information back. And you have to enter in there that adult equals off, and then you set up a website offset for how far down in the results you are. So all my script does is really wrap around that and, you know, go through and do a million posts to bang real quick. And so when we hit that particular api.bing.com.net, it returns all the results in XML, which is so nice, man. XML results, it's easy to parse that stuff in code. All right, so the only thing that we're going to need to do, that I remind you, is that Bing doesn't just come back and give us all the unique IP addresses, but basically it's just going to return us, and we roll out through the offset 500, 600 records deep, and then at that point we take the records returned and we sort and unique those domain names, so we have a nice pretty list at the end of all the unique domain names that we found. And the next screenshot, bam. So here's my IPv2 vhost little, again there's the paste bin up there. And so, all right, so that, okay, in pen testing, right, we all know the output of one tool is always the input to our next. So the output of the last nmap command we ran was to gather up all the web servers and find out what web servers were running on what IP addresses and put those in a nice little pretty file. And we took that file and we inputted that into IPv2 vhost. And what it did was it took 419 IP addresses, ran them all through Bing, and on those 419 IP addresses, there are 1,254 websites running on those 419 IP addresses. You guys starting to see how our attack surface goes from this to this very quickly. And this is only one net block out of the 5 net blocks that we found that they own. This is only one net block. So I have 1,254 different websites right now that all I got to do is find one old WordPress, one old Joomla, one old PHP my admin in, and bam, I'm on the infrastructure. Simple stuff. So, yeah, 3dcartoonworlds.com, Shemale, Adult, Comics, Dreams. I mean, dude, they got to have a lot of affiliate sites to keep business up. People are into different kind of stuff, you know? All right. So the next step in our methodology is the web application enumeration part. All right, so now I have these 1,254 websites. But man, am I going to go in my browser to 1,254 websites and be like, okay, that's PHP my admin, or that's Joomla. Hell no, I'm way too lazy for that shit. What I do is write code to do it for me. Well, I didn't have to write code. Well, I do have to preface this and say I wrote code to do this long before this guy ever did. I just don't publicly release my stuff. I get paid for my shit. I'm not into that give it to you for free shit. But this guy, he's into the give it to you for free shit. And his name's Andrew Horton. He's an Australian. And he developed an application called WhatWeb. And it's pretty cool. It works well, except for it's written in Ruby. Sorry. It detects over 900 different web applications right now. 900. That's a lot of different web applications. The good things about it, it's got very active development right now. First public tool of its type. Carries out detection via simple regex detection. So how do we do web application detection? It's really simple, right? How do you find out if the website's a WordPress website? Come on, guys. What do you see? How do you know? You look at the source code. No, I'm looking for a simpler answer than that. Oh, no. How about that little powered by WordPress? Might be a little hint.